On this installment of Creative Cabin Fever, I get to talk to my friend Daoiri. We met for the first time in Cypress Avenue when he did an incredible live stream for all of us. He also obviously did all the COVID corner sessions, which were incredible to keep people going during this moment in time. So I wanted to catch up with him and just talk to him about how this moment in time has affected him personally. Daoiri, how are you?
Not too bad. All is good. Yeah. All is good. So we got up early this morning. I went for my 25-kilometer run. No, I didn't really, because you're not allowed to go any more than 5 kilometers. So like that's a lie. So
You could
yeah,
5 times, like
could have, yeah, could have, would have, should have. So I know it's good to be here and it's great to see you again. And yeah, the last time I saw you was at the gig in Cork, and it was great. But I mean, it's a new year now, and we're in total lockdown and all. But everything is good. Like everything is great, So yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, look, it is. It's such a strange turnaround in the last few weeks for all of us, and we're still coming to our, adjusting to it again, and we're all having those things. But we're going to try to keep this as positive as possible, and we're going to talk about everything from your lockdown experience to how you discovered your voice, all these things that people will be fascinated about. So, like, obviously, we'll start at the beginning then.
Sure.
How did you find your craft? How did you find your voice? What was it that started you in music?
It was like, I can only say through me mum and me dad. My dad is a big fan, like myself, of folk music, and he would have had like a tape cassette in the car, and he would have had a couple of different tapes. I can tell you what they were. He had Phil Lynott, because I have them here. They're actually right there. He had Phil Lynott, Christy Moore, a bit of the Botty Band, the Furies and Davy Arthur, the Clancy Brothers, that kind of stuff. And we would just put those tapes in and go over them. And, when we were going fishing or whatever. So it's kind of a light entry into it. He said he always reminds me that when I was a child, that if I couldn't go to sleep in the night, that he would put the record player in my room. It's only a little small. It's just up there. I need to fix it. Actually, it's still here. Like, it's amazing. We still have it. And he used to set it up, a little small portable one, and he would put on a couple of records, which are just there actually. So he had again, he had the Botty Band and a bit of the Fury stuff. And he would put them on and play them, and then he said it would soothe me off to sleep, myself and my sister Kira as well. But I just got a bite for it. I love that music. And then I grew up in a place called Crumlin here in Dublin, and all my mates are real cool, obviously, like everybody in Crumlin, they were all real cool, and they loved the Beastie Boys, and they'd listen to Blur and Oasis, and they'd listen to kind of Nirvana was another big thing, and that kind of stuff, like that kind of music. And so I just really was inspired by kind of, I was one of those people, Rebecca, I didn't need to be listening to any one thing. Like, anything would amuse me, so my next door neighbor was a pal of mine, Anthony Augusta, and his dad Jimmy, he used to listen to Pavarotti, and with them being Augustas, he kind of listened to Pavarotti, and I was saying oh man, this is really cool, So he gave me a couple of the LPs, and I used to just play them on the portable, and it was great. So I could see beauty or hear beauty in all of this music. It didn't matter what it was, I kind of got into a bit of hardcore kind of, mad kind of dancey kind of music and all that crack. But always at the end of the night, it would go back to Christy Moore singing John O'Dreams, or the Boys of Barna Shroida, or the crack was 90 in the Isle of Man. I'd always kind of come back to that. And so, but I still didn't play an instrument. So a couple of years went by anyway, and I think it was for my 14th or my 15th birthday, I asked for a bodhrán after seeing Christy Moore playing the bodhrán on the Late Late Show. I didn't actually ask for a bodhrán. I'll tell you what happened. I was sitting watching him on the Late Late Show, and I said to my mum and dad, I said, I'd love to be able to do what he's doing. But what he was doing was he was captivating an audience at home and on the TV. And I just thought that this was amazing. He was doing it by playing very simple tones on, what I thought were simple tones on a bodhrán, and singing a song called The Well Below the Valley. And I always remember looking at it and saying that was really cool, So what happened was my mum and dad kind of picked it up, kind of right, kind of wrong, and they got me a bodhrán, and that was my introduction into music. any type of music. It was to have a bodhrán. So I got a bodhrán and a Spanish classical guitar, and then I had this kind of like kind of like a ukulele mandolin kind of a thing. I can't even remember what it was. And I had this, and I was playing the bodhrán. I used to play the bodhrán, and I'd play the guitar. I got lessons, Spanish classical lessons, kind of, and I was playing that kind of stuff on a beautiful nylon string Spanish classical guitar. So then eventually I settled on. I went away from the music for a long time then, because I got a job as an electrician, which kind of took me off the main road and around that path, like, you know. So I went on and I studied electrical engineering and all of this kind of stuff, whatever you want to call it, you know. And I became an electrician, and I spent time been an electrician for years, like probably 11 years. I actually think I counted out as nearly 10 and a half, 11 years. But I was a dangerous guy then because I had money, so I was able to buy instruments. So the kind of the instruments I settled on was a banjo, and I had a lovely banjo and a lovely mandolin, something like this one in the back here. And I had a lovely Spanish classical guitar and a really nice bodhrán. And so I used to just sit at home playing them, you know, and I'd play anything. I'd be playing Nirvana, I'd be playing a bit of Oasis, I'd be doing Christy Moore, I'd be playing jigs and reels on the banjo, I'd be banging the bodhrán like that, and just, you know, having a crack in the house. And then I'd go to work, I'd come home, and then I kind of, you know, I kind of got into the likes of Planksty and stuff like that, you know, that kind of stuff. That was really, really, I thought, like, this music is really cool. This is what I like, you know. And I remember when I was around 24, 25, being let go out of this job that I had, you know, as an electrician. And there wasn't anything personal, I don't think. I think it was just let go, you know, because that's the way it was going back then. And around 2006, 2007, it was starting to happen. And there's a college up the road here, the Kyoto Music Performance College in Ballyfermot Further Education College, you know. So I went up there and I done an interview, and I got in onto, it was a 2-year diploma in Irish traditional music performance. So I got in on that, and then I just met a heap of musicians in there, and that was it. I just started playing then. So I was playing the banjo, you know. I was playing the banjo, I was playing a bit of guitar, singing. I wasn't really singing at the time. Banjo was my main thing. And then I picked up the bouzouki for the very first time. I'd imagine. Yeah, no, it definitely was. For the very first time I picked up the bouzouki in there. And the lecturer, Paul McGrattan, he said to me, why don't you take it home and play it for a few days over the weekend and stuff like that. So then I was just hooked. I picked it up, and I understood it. And it, like, you know, I liked the sound of it, I understood it, and it brought me back. The sound of it was just like Planksty. It was just like, this is great, like, you know. And I think actually to this day, I was probably the only person ever to change the strings on that instrument. I think it's still up there in the college. And I think I was probably the last one to change the strings on it. So I must go back up and change the strings on it again. But I had to get one then. So I went and bought one, and I had it for years. And it was a really basic one that I bought, you know. And I actually bought it off this fella called Paul Evans, who lives in Carsiveen, right, in Kerry. He Siveen mandolins, right? He makes beautiful instruments now, but he had acquired this one, and I brought it into a shop in Dublin City to have a service done on it, you know. And it was around Christmas time. I can't even remember when it was, but it was robbed out of the shop, you know. Right? So the guy in the shop was really generous, yeah, like, along with like 5 or 6 other instruments. And I saw it on the CCTV. A guy came in and reached over the counter, and he took the instruments by the neck, and he just ran out of the shop and ran down the road. Swear to God, right? Unbelievable. And then what happened was he gave me one from the shop, like, to compensate me, and that was the one that I had for years. And I remember hearing about this session that used to happen on a Sunday day, right, in O'Donoghue's in Merrion Row, and I remember thinking, points are €1 in there, so I'll go in, you know. So I went in with one of my mates, and when I went in, I brought the bouzouki with me. And there was a guy sitting there, and he said to me, give me a look at that bouzouki. I'd never met him before. I'd introduced myself to him on that. And he says, geez, that's a really old thing, you know. Would you not get a new one? Would you not get a nice one? And I said, yeah, I'd love a nice one. I said, there's this fella called Joe Foley. I says, I'd love him to make me one, you know. And Joe was there. Joe actually was running the session, but he was over on the other side. So I went over to Joe and I said, hey, are you Joe Foley? And he says, yeah, who are you? And I says, Derry. He says, will you make me an instrument? He was like, no, I don't just make them like that, like, you know, and I was saying, all right. So we sat down and we had a few pints and a few tunes and a great bit of crack, and I had the banjo. And at the end of the night, he had agreed to make me an instrument. And there it is there. That's the one. I still have it. It was made in 2008. I think it was 2008 or 2009. Here it is here, and I still have it. And that's the one I recorded all the albums and everything on. So, I mean, it was the likes of those guys that it was just inspiration from the likes of me mum and dad, you know, me friends for not slagging me for playing traditional music, even though they were listening to the Beastie Boys. Then I went into that college course and I met like Niamh Parsons and Pat Daly and you know, Paul McGrath and Tony Bourne and Jerry O'Connor and all these really cool guys that were really, really cool musicians. Just a massive kind of just flooded with just, you know, ideas and inspiration. And no matter how good you felt you were, they always had another bit of homework for you, which was just, I totally immersed myself in the music. And went on to Dundalk then to do a degree, and then went on to Limerick to do a master's, and it was just fantastic, you know. So I got into the music at that stage, you know, and so I know I'm at the waffling on for ages, but like that's where I am. Here we are now, you know, and it's just, but that's where it started, like, you know, for me it is anyway, with the Irish music and doing what I do.
That's bloody inspirational, Derry. Like
mental, you know, yeah. It's great.
Like, that's the kind of story I want more people to hear in this moment in time. So I'm so happy I decided to interview you, because there's people at home now who lost everything the way you did back in 2006 and maybe feel like, what am I doing next? And you just proved to a whole generation of people who listen to your music that actually just go back to the thing you love and you might end up where I am. And that's just absolutely beautiful.
Just do the thing you love, whatever it is, you know, and yeah, that's it, like, you know, within reason, obviously. Like, we're not going to get into things that people love, like, you know what I mean? Some of them are illegal or whatever, but music is fine, yeah, if you love it. And like, I was a late bloomer, like, so not my granddad on my father's side, he played a bit of concertina, I know, you know, Kevin, and like my cousin Robert, he played a bit of guitar and some few songs the odd time, and then my other cousin Kevin, I think he played a bit of music, and my dad's brother Brian, he played a bit of bower on, and I think that's probably, I do remember seeing Brian playing years and years ago, but that was one of the reasons, but it wasn't the full reason. Was just, it was Christy Moore on the TV. I saw what he done, this thing. It was nothing to do with the playing or anything. It was this took me years to figure out. He put heart into the song and the music, and he made it come alive. He gave it a kind of a spirit, if you want, you know what I mean? It was almost a spiritual thing. And there's people out there going to be laughing at me, you know, but I actually don't care, because I was one of those people that was, I don't want to call myself, I don't want to say that I'm vain or anything, but I would have an awful problem with saying things like that. I would have for a lot of years, but you just have to let it in. And I really do think that music is just, it can be, if it's presented properly, it can be such an emotional thing for a massive, broad spectrum of people, you know what I mean? And I've seen that happen. It's like magic, you know. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, music is a thing that heals us all, unites us all. It's something that transcends any barrier. Everyone can understand that on the same level. It doesn't actually matter who you are, like what your understanding is. If you're in a room listening to music, you're all feeling it the same way, whatever your perception. It's magical. So that's beautiful. And actually, one of the things I wanted to say about you and your performance in Cypress Avenue. So obviously, I'm one of the luckiest people in the world right now that I actually still get to attend gigs. But yeah, it was about, how did you get to craft that? Because your stage presence was second to none. The way you had segues with stories, incredibly, like they were just all so true to who you are. There was beautiful pieces in there. And now you're after explaining that started off when you were a little kid and you saw Christy Moore do that, and you spent years trying to figure out how to do that yourself. It's amazing.
There you go. Yeah, you know, I mean, I just love it. It's great, and I will pick a song. There's plenty of times, there's probably as many songs that I pick that don't work. They fall on their arse. They don't work for me. They don't suit my voice, whatever. As there is songs that I pick and I just have a connection with them. There's you know, so there's a lot of hard work in it. Like, I mean, I had to explain this to somebody the other day. Not the other day. It was probably a couple of weeks ago. Who knows anymore? You know, days are going into weeks, right? But it was sometime in the past, not so long past, that somebody was saying to me, how do I get good quick playing the bouzouki? And I was saying, there's only one way. He said, sit down and practice it. And your muscle memory and all of that crack, that all kind of, gets together. And then I ended up going on this crazy rant saying like that, even I don't do it enough as much as I should. Like I should do a bit more, and which kind of got me on this mad buzz of just practice and learning a few songs. And then, you come out of that kind of rabbit hole and you're going, oh God, that was amazing. That was great. So yeah, that's what it is. So like what you see for 40 minutes on YouTube is taken, like some of those songs I've been singing ever since the very first day I picked up the bouzouki, which was probably 11 or 12 years ago now at this stage, So it's a long process, but I have to say it was enjoyable, and that's the thing about it. So it feels like it was only yesterday when I started playing it, but I know I put the man hours in to get there where I am. And I think, like Rebecca, you just have to be. I always have trouble trying to explain this, but when I just close my eyes and I sing those songs, and I am there. When I'm singing the Craig and White Hare, I am the fella unleashing the dog onto the hare, and I'm doing it for excitement. Like they were doing it for excitement, but they also kind of pity the hare, and they want the hare to get away so they can chase it the next day, the Craig and White Hare. And nobody put 1 ounce of thought into how scared the poor hare was and why they were always hunting this hare, because he was so fast. And then you've got this other bunch of people that are saying, well, how come nobody caught the hare? Because the hare had practice. He just had practiced and practiced. He practiced running every single day, probably 3 or 4 times a day, because there was somebody out trying to catch him. And then, other people, you see, this is what goes on. You're thinking about all this stuff. You learn, the more you sing the songs, the more you learn them, the more you learn about them, the feeling that it gives. And then it just, I'm putting that out there then, in my performance or whatever. And it just really affects people, when you tell a story like that or whatever. So and all of those songs that I sung, I kind of, and I would imagine that everyone done it in the Cypress Avenue gig, let's say. I'm just picking that one because that's the last place I saw you. But I would imagine that everybody picked some, like all the performers probably picked their favorite songs to play that night, because it's a kind of a rare thing to be doing a gig now. So it was like, so that's why I think it's just special. It's just I can't even explain it. I'm brutal at some things explaining.
No, like I think I understand. It's kind of like, well, I think I can understand what you're trying to say, but I can only give you my perception of what you're saying. I can't actually get in your brain, right? But you have a way of just connecting with songs, and the more you play them, the more you associate yourself in it. It's sort of like an actor does when he's taken on a role, but you're doing that in embodying a song so that you can put out the perfect vibes that are associated with the song. So the more you practice that song, the more you feel it differently, the more then those feelings are transferable to an audience. And I think that's incredible. I've never heard anyone talk about songwriting or song playing in that manner before.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. Thanks. I should bring you around with me everywhere to explain what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So that's it. It's just something that I understand. And but my style of music is what I understand, because that's why I'm still doing it. So yeah, it's great.
That's beautiful. And again, like your performance is still available, obviously, online. So everyone should go watch that, because the storytelling in between trying to playing and all of that, like I really enjoyed that part of it. Like it was just so cool to hear, well, this is where this song come from and this is why it's going. And then you see you bust the song out with so much like power. And now I understand your process better. That's amazing. Obviously, you said that people ask you about playing the bouzouki, and you are also an instructor. So I think that might be important to say in this interview. If anyone wants Daoiri Farrell lessons, you can actually get those at the moment. So that might even help people get better at the bouzouki. So how are you finding transferring that to the online medium?
Yeah, it can be like, it's actually great. Like it's working out really great, I think. And the majority of the students are happy, you know what I mean? So I go on and I do half-hour lessons. I don't do too long, right? A half hour is fine, because you get like, there's 5 minutes of chit chat or whatever if you want it. Look, I don't restrict it to a half an hour. I try to, and sometimes you have to because of one after the other or whatever. And it works out great. At the start, it was a bit rocky for me, because I kind of, I was kind of like, what way? Like trying to explain that last question to you, like, you know what I mean? But you get good at it after a while, like everything else, So So yeah, now I mean, just people come on and they'll ask me for instruction, or I might ask them to play a song, and then I'll say, do you want my input on how you might be able to fix that? It's kind of it's bazooki lessons and like how to play the chords or whatever. But it's also what it is, which I think is more important, is it's trying to get your brain into the way of thinking of arranging a song, because you might want to do something on your own someday. And then if you had an idea of, yeah, well, I've kind of got that idea there, yeah, this might be nice. It's kind of a way of working it out for yourself, so that you don't have to like continuously go to lessons for the rest of your life. That's the way I learned. That's the way I learned. I kind of taught myself to a point, and then I would go off and ask people, and then I'd go off and work on that for a while, and then I'd go off and ask somebody else something, So yeah, the bazooki lessons and the singing lessons are going really well. And if anybody wants to get in touch about them or is interested, they could either get me email through the website, or if they go on to the Facebook fan page, Daoiri Farrell Music, they can ask me a direct message there if they want. That's a pretty good way of getting in touch with me. So yeah, thanks very much for that for the shout.
No, look, I think anyone who can upskill in this moment in time and might be interested, especially with the honor of being able to do something like that with someone like you, like it's just brilliant. Like we obviously had Andy Irvine there as well, so I know he's one of your big heroes. And actually, oh man, that guy, just being there was like, what? Same as yourself, but like I haven't had any bad one in the bunch. Everyone who performed in Cypress Avenue was amazing. But like, it was just like, what? Like the same kind of song process as you now that I think about it, because the way he explained the songs is very similar to you. So now I have a question formulating in my brain that I didn't even know I was even going to be able to pose, or maybe an idea forming from our conversation more so than a question. It's kind of like putting me in this mind spin that maybe Irish trad is a descendant of our poetry and our fire camps. So the reason it's so like storytelling is because of all the storytellers in our past, and we're associating that with music now because we didn't have the druids anymore to do stuff like that. So maybe that's an extra level of why it's so powerful. Like, because it wouldn't be like my number one music, like it just isn't. But I do really respect and adore it. Like I'd listen to you, like for instance, I really, really enjoy everything you do, but it wouldn't be my first go-to is what I mean. So I don't know that much about it. That's why I'm trying to understand it better, maybe.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand what you mean, and there's like I get messages from people in different genres of music going, wow, like I mean, exactly saying that, and some people can be like so straight, and I love that about people. They'll come on and they'll say, like take for instance the video, it's nearly at 17 million views now at this stage on YouTube, like the one of singing the Galway girl in the airport, like that was born from complete and utter boredom. Like, I mean, that's how that happened. You know what I mean? It's just complete boredom. And so I was sitting here in this chair. We were still waiting to board the plane. And the girl sitting behind me said, we're really sick because we've been on the beer all weekend and we were in Blackpool and we were at a hen party. And she said, it would really help if you knew the words to the Galway girl. And I said, well, I know a few of them. I could kind of start singing it. And so I just started singing it. And then my dad at the set, like the universe kind of just all aligned. My dad figured out how to use the camera and he videoed it, like, and just, it was like, whatever, 50 seconds or something like that. And we were all playing. Jeff was playing the banjo and Robbie was playing the bower on, and we were just sitting there. And next thing, the whole place, like, you couldn't see it because the camera didn't span around, but the cops and everything, and kind of the flight crew, the attendants, everyone, the pilot and everything was there, and they were all clapping and singing along. You just can't see it in the video, but it was just an amazing thing. Like, and like that, like I've been getting messages ever since I put that up on YouTube from people saying, we don't like your type of music, we've listened to your other stuff, but this is just amazing. Have you ever done a recording of this? But like, it's kind of flattering in a way, because at least they're telling you, you know what I mean? They're kind of saying to you, listen, I'm not really into that, but this is really good. And people get on to me and they'll say, look, I love this song. Other people will get on to you and say, and it's happened to me in my life, I'm sure it's happened to every musician, people will come to you and they'll say, I used to like that song until you start singing it, you know. People are, everyone has their own opinion, you know, and like, it's just, that's great. Like, it's good to know what people think. It's good to get those feelings back, because then you've got something, you've got criticism to work with. You can kind of go, yeah, all right, cool, yeah. Now, you know, point taken, and I'll have a think about that or whatever. You know, if everybody was just nicey all the time, sure, all the music would probably be just the same, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, that's something, like, you know what I mean? I know what you mean, like, about there's musicians that I wouldn't listen to, but I might listen to one or two of their songs, you know what I mean? And I just love them, like, you know, especially if I have a few beers taken, I'll sit out there and watch YouTube till the early hours, you know. Love it.
Hey, look, man, you were playing Nirvana, like, do you know what I mean? I think we're not too different, like, but yeah, I think it's fascinating because I am learning about a genre that I wouldn't usually be so close to. Like, even though my
Yeah,
dad would have raised me on Christy Moore, like my mom would have been Pavarotti and bread, my dad would have been Black Sabbath, Christy Moore, and
class.
like Enya. Do you know what I mean? And I was
Deadly, isn't
just
it? Yeah.
metal. I came out like this.
It's great. It's great, you know. Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, so a question that I've been playing around with a lot lately actually is, what is your favorite song that you've written? Because obviously people are going to listen to your music, and I'm finding a lot of artists are like, well, we put this song out and everyone loved it, but actually it's not my favorite.
Well,
And
you
it's,
see, that's the thing now. Sorry for I meant to do the thing right. The I don't write songs. I just collect songs, and I've got books and stuff here, and I collect them, and I'll go into the Irish music archives, and I will, you know, look up a few songs or whatever, or I'll see something that doesn't have music behind it, and I will do this thing Mick Broderick said before. We take songs and we bazookaify them. You know, he's Mick Broderick's from like, you know, the band Slide, and he's an amazing bazooki player, and he's a really good friend of mine. Like, and you know, I get on really great with him. He said that to me one day. He says, like, you know, that's what we do. We bazookaify songs and we rock them out. And I was like, that's a great saying. I gotta take that. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, and that's kind of, that's what we do. Like, and no, but I have never written songs. I said I was going to sit down and write a few songs. So I've got some half written, which I should probably sit down and finish, but I don't know. Like, there's so many good songwriters out there that it would make me feel a little bit embarrassed to write a song and sing it out loud. But I really should just push myself to do it, you know? Yeah, you might have started a ball rolling there. I might finish one of those songs that I started writing, you know? Yeah.
we have time now. But yeah, so obviously in your case, it's not so much about writing, it's about bazookifying. So in that case, fan favorites versus your actual favorite. What's a song you maybe connect with more than any other song?
Even though I'm asked to sing it all the time, I love that song, The Craig and White Hair. Like, it's got so much character and everything about it, and it kind of has a bit of a sadness, and there's also light at the end of the tunnel. I can imagine hearing it. I can always imagine hearing it for the first time, like the first time I heard it, you know. I was at an Andy Irvine gig, and I came home and I bought the album because I'd never seen it before, and putting it on, The Parallel Lines with Dick Gotten, and I remember hearing the song for the first time and going, that song is incredible. The first couple of lines, and it's so easy, like, you know, in the lowlands of Cregan there lives a white hare, as swift as the swallow that flies through the air. He'll tramp the world over with none to compare to the pride of Low Cregan, the Cregan, the bonny white hair. Like, I mean, that's it's just like, it's so powerful. Do you know what I mean? And it's so simple as well when you think about it. And you know, the likes of that, and any Liam Weldon song, any song that Liam Weldon ever wrote, like, is just, he was just a beautiful, beautiful writer, like, you know, and that kind of stuff. I love singing those songs. They like, Liam Weldon songs were written, even though they were written probably in the last 30 or 40 years, he's still they're still fairly new, but they sound as old as the hills. Like, they just, the way he had written them, like, they sound as old as The Parking Glass, or one of those songs. Like, they really, really sound, you know, super, super ancient, and that's an art. Like, that's a total art, which I just haven't had a chance to touch on yet. So that's what I'll do. But I'll get those songs and I will just do them my way, you know. I'll get, you know, so I've recorded songs like Liam Weldon songs in the past, and I've done a different version to him. I'll never be him, or Andy Irvine or Christy Moore, but there are versions of, or Luke Kelly. There's another fella who I think was absolutely amazing. song collector. So I'd kind of see myself as maybe a song collector more than and a singer than a songwriter. But hopefully that changes in the next few years. You know, I'd love to sit down and start writing songs. Yeah.
Hey, look, this is probably the perfect moment in time to try that anyway. And I imagine you connect so well with music anyway. I truly believe like that would make you a good songwriter because you understand it from an emotional point of view. So then it's just about changing that thought process and doing something. I have a few friends actually that are doing all sorts of creative writing exercises. There's really, really interesting ones to be doing. One of my friends writes one song a day. He knows he's only probably going to have 10 good songs at the end of the year, but one song every single day.
Well, that's amazing. That's really great. Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, yeah. He writes one every day. Wow. Yeah. I must get onto that and start trying to do that, you know.
Yeah, writes one song every single day, lyrics, music, and then he records the whole thing and writes it all down. And then after the end of the month, he'll go back over his favorite bits and then try make one song out of his favorite bits that he made. And then you end up with one decent song and like a ton of not so great songs.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you keep going, you get faster and you learn how to do different things. So he uses different exercises like creative writing exercises. Like, so for instance, think in the third person. So you are an anchor today, right from the perspective of the anchor. So you are an anchor at the bottom of a sea ship. How do you perceive everything? How do you do it that way? And that's forcing him to just completely throw his creative process through the fucking roof. It's amazing.
That's great. Yeah, I believe with practice, I was told before by a good friend of mine called Bill Martin. He told me that you know, if when you start writing songs, well, he was telling me from his perspective that you write a big load of crap first, and then you start writing, you start writing with finesse and a bit better and stuff. And he's a great songwriter now, like, you know, but like he has years on me, and that's the one thing I'm afraid of is having to start such a thing again. Like, you know the way, like, you know, the likes of. And you know the likes of like fellas who I would really listen to and just be in total awe of their music, like Damien Dempsey and Declan O'Rourke, like, and those guys, you know. And like I think I might have mentioned them earlier on. I think John Bleck. I remember seeing a gig of him, and it was fantastic. Like, just really, really great songwriters. These guys, you know, and kind of going, I'm never going to be able to get to that level. But you definitely won't be able to get to that level if you don't start, Derry. That's what I have to tell myself. You know what I mean? So yeah, maybe it is time to start. This year is probably time to start, and I'll come back to you at the end of the year with a song, see what you think of it.
I love that. But you see, the other thing is there's probably loads of people out there who have been writing songs for years, but don't have your craft or skill in the instruments themselves. So then they need to start that process. You know, like everyone has so many opportunities to upscale it and just do something completely different and out of the comfort zone. So I think you're going to slay this. I am absolutely going to interview in a year's time and talk about that song.
Cool, yeah. So there you go. You know, that's where we're at. So yeah.
So I wanted to talk about your favorite gig memories. So venues you've played in and good stories you have to say about, like, you know, the time before, the time that's coming back eventually.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I owe a shout out to Mike Peake of the Derby Folk Festival. He died sadly last week, and he was a really, really great guy, like, you know, and he was well known by all of the folk musicians. And we you know, we thoughts and we prayers and go out to them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was really sad to hear that actually two friends of mine died on Friday last week, and it was the guy who lives across the road here, Andy Connolly. He was a great singer and a guitar. He played the guitar as well, you know, and he was a really great friend of mine. And we used to go over to the local, and he was from Tipperary, and you know, so, and I'm a Dub, so we'd have some great crack, like, you know. But I think he lived in Dublin for longer than he did Tipperary, like, you know. But he always was a big heavy tip man, and he died sadly on Friday as well. And geez, we miss him already so much, like, you know. And then Mike died then that night, like, and it was just really sad. But like, getting back to Mike, like, every time you'd go over to the Derby Folk Festival, he'd really look after you. He'd go out of his way to kind of put you up and make sure that you had everything. And I actually just came across photographs yesterday of us, the Derry Farrell trio, with him. So that's definitely like one of the festivals kind of that stood out there for me. Obviously, like Dublin Folk Festival, I mean, you've been at that so many times, like it's been fantastic, you know. And yeah, things that would interest me would be like the Frank Hart Festival, the Frank Hart Singing Festival that's held by the Golian Singers Club here in Dublin. Like, I mean, that's a great one as well, you know. And Cambridge Folk Festival, the likes of that, like, I mean, that was just not last year, was it last year, the year before? It was 2019. We finished up the festival to Daoiri Farrell with the All Stars. So there was myself and Sean O'Graham and Niamh Dunn, and there was Robbie Walsh and Mike McGoldrick and Donald Lunny, and there was Donald Shaw as well. And we kind of got together as this kind of, everyone was calling it a super group, but I just thought it was super musicians and then me, you know. And we got there and we were playing to these. I'll never forget. It was like a dream, like just playing to all these people, and they were all singing along with the songs, like just jumping up and down. And we were getting them to jump up and down, everyone at the same time. You could feel the whole place moving. It was just amazing, just amazing. Like, you know, yeah, the likes of that. And like, do you know what else was great as well? It was I know you've done it once, but we're playing with the Transatlantic Sessions. Like, we've done a tour of England with those guys, and it was just an incredible time. Like, really was great, because, you know, like, we kind of grew up on that, Rebecca, you know, myself and yourself. Like, I don't know if you did, but I used to watch that religiously every single time it was on the TV. It used to get played on TG Carr here in Ireland, and I'd watch it religiously. Like, so I've seen every single program, and now to be up on stage with like Ali Bain and Jerry Douglas and these guys all just jamming out, like, have the crack, like, you know, it was an amazing experience, like, you know. So I'm spoiled, absolutely spoiled. I am, you know. Yeah. So
Yeah, you're truly blessed, but you also work really hard. So, you know, that's what happens.
Yeah.
One foot in front of the other, you know.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah.
Last question then, before I let you go, or ask you if there's anything you'd like to add to the interview, Daoiri. Could you recommend some local artists I should be paying attention to? We should all be paying attention to.
Oh yeah, I love Nirvana, right? And Trevor. Yeah, I know I do. Like, I mean, you know, there's some great, you know, I love that stuff. I still listen to that stuff, and there's still, like, there's great documentaries and stuff. And I'll sit here and watch YouTube, and I'll watch music videos and stuff like that. But I'll watch me bit of fishing, and then I'll go off on a mad music buzz where I'm listening to absolutely mad stuff, like, all together. You know? So I'm a bit like you in that way, like, you know. But yeah, I mean, I love doing the sessions with musicians like you know, like Kevin Glacken and Sean Potts and stuff. I love those guys, playing music with those guys. Who do I love musically? Yeah, I was thinking about that. I would always find myself listening to like John Spillane and kind of Ger Wolf. They're kind of singer-songwriters. They're brilliant, you know. Ger does great. He does great kind of live feeds on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. You know, I love that stuff. I go onto the Golian and I listen to those unaccompanied singers, just one singer, one voice. It's the most raw. It's the most raw kind of just beautiful thing. You know what I mean? I love that. And yeah, obviously, I mean, Andy Irvine and anything to do with him, I love it, you know. Like I said to you, I was listening to John Black and stuff like that. I'd be listening to those guys a lot. Kind of going over to, I spent an awful lot of time in England, so I would listen a lot to kind of like, you know, there's a band that, and they're friends of ours up in Scotland called Talisk. They're just nuts, like, you know, they're brilliant, right? So those guys and the likes of the Young'uns, you know, getting back to the music and the singing again, like, you know, the Young'uns. I don't know if you've ever heard of those guys, but they are absolutely incredible, you know. Three singers that sing mostly a cappella, but they do beautiful musical arrangements of songs that they wrote themselves, you know. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I listen to. I would kind of lean more towards singing and stuff like that myself, but I still can't get away from the oldies, like the botty bands and the Planksties and stuff like that. I just love that stuff, you know. So yeah, I'm kind of, now that I think about it and listen back to what I just said, it kind of sounds a bit boring, really, doesn't it? That's what I listen to. Yeah, I listen to that stuff. Look, I feel really bad because there's loads of people that I know I'm leaving out. even though I had been thinking about it through the interview, like there's loads of people that I'm going to be kicking myself when we're gone, and I'm going to be saying, I should have said this person, I should have said that person. But that's what I do, you know. It's great having the time here to just sit down and listen to that, like just different types of music, isn't it? You know, that's one thing that's lovely about this.
I'm calling this rediscovering music for the first time, because I'm sitting down and listening to the old classics, but with a brand new ear. You know what I mean? Because I actually have time.
With a more, probably even a more educated ear and a more, you know, grown up kind of version of what you used to be like, and just listening back to music and getting, you know, like listening back to songs and that you've been listening to for years and years, and then you haven't heard them for so long because of the hustle and bustle of life, and you're coming back to listen to them now, and you're kind of getting the actual meaning of the song. Like, that's just an amazing discovery, like, to have that, you know. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you're really into lyrics. I'm dreadful at remembering lyrics, like dreadful. Like, I love songs and I love lyrics, but I'm dreadful at remembering them. I do have this fun game called Misheard Lyrics. I have this one friend for the last 15 years. We never speak outside of sending each other misheard lyrics.
Well, that's good, isn't it? Well, come here. I have to join that club. I'm terrible with lyrics myself. Like, if there's people looking at this and they know me, they know, like, that. In the heat of the moment at a gig with people, if I'm under pressure, that I do tend to make up the lyrics, and it's people do just burst out laughing and just go, hey, whatever, you know. So they'll forget about it in 10 minutes when I'm singing the next song, hopefully. You know, so, but no, I don't know what it is about lockdown. I'm loving it, and I'm loving having time with the family and stuff. But when I do sit down to, like, you know, arrange a song or have a listen to something, some of them are just incredibly hard to remember the words of. I feel like the older I get, I spend more time memorizing, you know. So, you know, that's just old age, I think.
It's also a combination of, there's already so many songs stuck in there that finding the room for the new ones is difficult. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose you're right there. Yeah, that's what it is as well. Yeah, you know, so.
Look, I've had a wonderful conversation. I'm so happy that you agreed for this interview. Is there anything you'd like to add to the interview before I stop recording, Daoiri?
I'd like to just say, if people just want to go over to the social medias, because, like, you know, and add me on, you can add me on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter there, and go and check out the website, www.daoiri.com, and go over and have a look and check me out, and you know, subscribe to the newsletter, and, you know, I keep everybody up to date on that. And if anybody wants any lessons or on singing, or just life, don't get in touch with me about that. But do come over if anybody wants any singing or bouzouki lessons. Yeah, I'd be delighted to help if I can, you know. So that's it, and thank you very much for having me today. I hope it doesn't come out too weird, you know.
No, I think this is brilliant, because yeah, no, it was perfect. I would urge everyone to check him out on his social media as well. And if you have like a free 45-minute set where you want to listen to a man completely lose himself in music, hit up the Cypress Avenue stream, because that was a beautiful, beautiful performance, and I think everyone should watch it. So, Daoiri, thank you so much. I'm going to stop.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. We'll see you again. Thanks. Have a good one.